She stepped through the sagging checkpoint gates with nothing but morphine and faith. Nadia's weathered hand tightened around a scuffed leather medical bag as she crossed into the silent ruins of the Chernobyl Exclusion Zone. Dawn light painted long shadows over derelict cottages and wild sunflowers pushing through cracked asphalt. A rusted sign bearing the name of her village leaned crookedly by the road, half choked by weeds. It creaked in the breeze, but she pressed on, undeterred. In the distance, a dog's forlorn whine echoed among the empty yards, answered only by the crunch of Nadia's boots on broken glass. Her heart clenched. She knew that sound too well. Decades ago, she had left this land and its helpless creatures behind in the chaos of evacuation. The memory of pets barking and children crying still haunted her. Now, 39 years later, she had returned to tend the forgotten souls that still wandered here. Any fear she might have felt was drowned out by compassion stronger than the lingering danger. With each measured step, memories tugged at her, a promise made in tears, a duty left unfulfilled. She followed the faint cries deeper into the abandoned village, guided by a vow more powerful than fear. Unbeknownst to Nadia, among these haunting remnants of her past, an untold secret lay buried, waiting for her to unearth it. Before we continue, what about you? Would you brave a radioactive ghost town to keep a promise? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. April 26, 1986. The night shift at Pripyat Hospital was eerily calm until the ground shuddered beneath Nadia's feet. A distant siren began to wail, an explosion at the Chernobyl nuclear plant. Within hours, radiation victims flooded the clinic. Nadia worked feverishly through the night cleaning wounds and comforting the terrified. Outside, a strange metallic taste tainted the air as an orange glow pulsed on the horizon. The next afternoon, loudspeakers announced a mandatory evacuation. Residents were told to pack for a few days away. Nadia knew better. This was no temporary precaution. Still in her iodine-stained nurse's uniform, she raced home through streets filled with panic. Children cried and clutched toys. Parents murmured prayers under a hazy spring sun. A chalky film of radioactive dust already swirled in the breeze. At her apartment, Nadia found her tan mutt, Zorka, cowering under the stairwell. She scooped up the trembling dog, tears of relief in her eyes. Quickly, she removed the blue kerchief from her hair and knotted it around Zorka's neck. Down on the street, dozens of buses idled as soldiers barked orders. Among the crowd, Nadia spotted her elderly neighbor Olena, who had quietly refused to evacuate. She couldn't bear to abandon her little farm outside town. Clutching Zorka, Nadia pushed toward a bus. A young soldier blocked her path. "No pets!" he snapped, trying to tug the dog from her arms. Nadia begged through tears, but he shook his head. All around them, people were giving up beloved animals amid sobs. Olena stepped forward and gently took Zorka's leash from the soldier. "Go, I'll watch him," the old woman promised. Trembling, Nadia pressed her cheek to Zorka's fur one last time. "I'll come back for you," she whispered, voice breaking. Then with a final anguished glance, she climbed onto the bus as Olena held the barking dog back. As the bus pulled away, Nadia's heart shattered. Zorka wriggled free and sprinted after the bus, blue kerchief fluttering. Nadia pounded on the window, screaming for the driver to stop, but the convoy did not halt. Through her tears, she watched soldiers wade into the road, shooing the pack of desperate pets until the dogs faded from view in a cloud of dust. In the days that followed, grim news reached the evacuees. Soldiers had been sent to eliminate all the abandoned animals. Nadia lay awake each night, picturing Zorka among those frightened creatures. She imagined him roaming empty streets, ears perked at every distant noise, searching for her. The guilt was a weight on her soul. Yet she never forgot her vow. Years passed. The Soviet Union collapsed, but Chernobyl's forbidden zone remained sealed behind barbed wire. Though life went on and Nadia continued nursing the living, part of her heart stayed in that dead city. She never married or had children. Her future felt frozen in 1986, with a dog she had promised to save. Every spring, around the disaster's anniversary, she dreamed of Zorka's brown eyes and woke in tears. She kept a faded photo of him in her journal as a constant reminder. By 2025, at age 64 and newly retired, Nadia was finally free to fulfill her promise. The exclusion zone had begun allowing limited visitors, and even volunteer veterinarians ventured in to help descendants of those lost pets. If ever there was a time to go back, it was now. One crisp autumn morning, she packed her weathered medical bag with bandages, basic medicines, and a few vials of morphine for any creature in unbearable pain. She tucked her treasured blue kerchief, faded but still symbolizing hope, into her pocket. With a deep breath, Nadia set out for Chernobyl. At the checkpoint to the 30-kilometer exclusion zone, armed guards checked her papers and waved her through. The yellow radiation warning sign loomed as she stepped past the fence. In that moment, the weight of 39 years lifted just a little. She had returned. The silence inside the zone was profound, broken only by a cold wind through the pines. With resolve burning in her chest, the forgotten nurse of Chernobyl walked onward, ready to honor her untold vow. Nadia stepped carefully through the overgrown lane of her former village, her boots crunching twigs and glass. The sky was a crisp blue, the mid-morning sun illuminating skeletal rooftops and tangles of ivy that had overtaken fences. In the distance, the gutted high-rises of Pripyat loomed like silent sentinels, but she turned away from them for now. Her focus was on the task at hand. A faint whimper carried on the breeze. She followed the sound to a collapsed wooden shed beside an abandoned cottage. Peering into the dim interior, Nadia's breath caught. A gaunt German Shepherd mix lay in the shadows, one of its hind legs trapped under a fallen beam. The dog's fur was matted and patchy, its flank marked by an old scar, but its eyes shone with fear and pain. Slowly, Nadia approached, kneeling at a safe distance. "Shh, easy there. It's okay," she whispered, her voice gentle and steady. The dog growled low in its throat, a warning born of terror. Nadia removed her canvas satchel and carefully pulled out a packet of dried meat and a bottle of water. The animal's ears pricked at the scent of food. She tossed a small piece of meat within sniffing distance. After a tense pause, the dog dragged itself forward enough to grab the morsel. "Good boy. That's it." Nadia cooed softly, inching closer. She offered more bits of food, patiently earning the dog's trust. Its ribs stood out sharply with each labored breath. When she was near enough, she reached out slowly and placed her palm on its side, feeling the rapid heartbeat beneath the dirt-caked fur. The dog flinched but did not bite. Examining the trapped leg, Nadia saw it wasn't broken, just pinned by the heavy plank. She braced herself and heaved the debris upward with a grunt. The plank shifted, and the dog yelped, scrambling free and limping back in alarm. Nadia sat back on her heels, hands up reassuringly. "It's all right. You're free now." The dog put weight gingerly on the injured leg and managed a tentative step. It could walk. Nadia smiled in relief, tears pricking her eyes at the small victory. She opened her water bottle and poured some into a shallow tin from her bag. Thirstily, the animal crept forward to lap it up. Under the grime, its coat was a tawny gold, not unlike Zorka's had been. For a moment, Nadia's vision blurred. She gently ran a hand along the dog's neck, feeling its tense muscles slowly relax. A plastic tag dangled from the dog's frayed collar. Surprised, Nadia wiped the dirt away to read it. Faintly engraved was a name, Taurus, along with an identification number from a recent year. This dog was one of the strays being monitored by cleanup volunteers. "Taurus! You've got people looking out for you," she murmured. The dog's ears flicked at the sound of its name. Taurus leaned his head into her hand with a soft whine, as if grateful. Nadia applied antiseptic salve to a cut on Taurus's leg and wrapped it with a clean bandage. The dog accepted her care with only a slight wince. Digging once more into her bag, she drew out a preloaded syringe of painkiller. "This will help," she said soothingly. She injected a tiny dose of morphine into the scruff of Taras's neck. After a few minutes, the animal's trembling eased. With Taras freed and treated, Nadia stepped out of the ruined shed into the sunlight. The shepherd mix hobbled behind her, determined not to let his rescuer out of sight. She smiled and beckoned him along. Together they walked past the silent cottage, its windows blank and door hanging ajar, and back onto the overgrown road. Nadia's heart felt a bittersweet warmth. For the first time in decades, she had tangibly helped a life in this forsaken place. If you're enjoying this journey of compassion and courage, please subscribe to our channel for more stories like this. By noon, Nadia and Taras had reached a fork where a hand-painted signpost lay half-buried in weeds. She recognized the faded lettering pointing toward an old dirt path. It led to Alina's farmstead, tucked deeper in the forest. Her pulse quickened. For 39 years she had wondered about the promise she left in Olina's hands. Now at last, she might learn the truth. The path was barely visible, reclaimed by grasses and young birch trees. As they pressed on, the forest grew denser. Taras limped faithfully at Nadia's side, occasionally stopping to sniff the air. Once he froze and let out a low growl. Through the trees, two wolves darted in the distance, uninterested in the human and her canine companion. Nadia exhaled slowly, steadying her nerves. Danger still lurked here, but she felt strangely protected, perhaps by the very vow she was honoring. Afternoon light slanted golden through the pines when Nadia finally emerged into a clearing. Her breath caught in her throat. There stood the remnants of Alina's cottage. The humble wooden house was collapsing in on itself, the roof partially caved, walls entwined with vines. The old chicken coop was just a pile of lichen-covered boards now. Yet the sight brought a rush of memories. Alina waving from the porch, apron dusted with flour, the smell of borscht and fresh bread when Nadia visited as a young neighbor, the hearty laugh of the older woman who had no children of her own but treated Nadia like family. "Come on, Taras," Nadia whispered, stepping forward through waist-high weeds. The dog followed, tail low but wagging gently. The yard was silent except for the rustle of leaves. A rusty bucket, an overturned stool, small relics of a life long gone. Behind the cottage, the orchard's apple trees had grown wild. Nadia's eyes traveled to the great gnarled oak at the back of the garden. Beneath its canopy, the ground was unnaturally bare. As she walked closer, she realized why. Two weathered wooden crosses stood planted in the earth, framed by a ring of river stones. Nadia's hands flew to her mouth. Her eyes darted from one cross to the other. Faded Cyrillic letters were carved into each by an unsteady hand. On the taller cross, she could just make out Olena, Olina. The smaller cross bore a name that sent a shudder through Nadia's entire being. Zorka, Zorka. She fell to her knees, overcome by a flood of emotion. Taras padded to her side and nuzzled her arm as she reached out and touched the smaller cross. The wood was rough and brittle. Nadia traced the carved letters of her dog's name with trembling fingers, tears blurring her sight. Zorka had a grave. Someone had cared enough to bury him and mark his resting place. Through her sobs, Nadia noticed something else at the base of the crosses. A small metal tin rusted around the edges. With unsteady hands, she picked it up and pried the lid open. Inside, wrapped in plastic to keep out moisture, was a folded letter, yellowed with age. On the envelope, in careful cursive, was written, "For Nadia." Her heart thundered. Alina had left her a message. With shaking fingers, Nadia slid the fragile paper out and unfolded it. As she began to read the spidery writing, her breath caught on a sob. It was Alina's handwriting, unmistakably. Nadia clutched the letter to her chest for a long moment, unable to continue right away. Taras whined softly and rested his head in her lap. When she had steadied herself, Nadia drew in a deep breath and held the letter up to the fading light, filtering through the oak leaves. "Dear Nadia, the letter began. Nadia held the fragile letter up, and in the quiet of that abandoned farmstead, she began to read Olena's final words. Dear Nadia, I hope someday you read this. I want you to know that I kept my promise as best I could. After you left, I took Zorka with me back to my little farm. He was scared and confused, but we had each other. Every morning he trotted to the road and waited, thinking you might come back on one of those big buses. I fed him and gave him all the love I had left. The winter after the accident was harsh. Zorka grew weak. Too much radiation in his little body, I think. On a quiet January morning in 1987, he passed away in his sleep, curled up by my fireplace. He did not suffer at the end. I held him and told him how much you loved him. I buried Zorka under the old oak tree next to my husband's cross. I carved his name so he wouldn't be forgotten. My dear, I am an old woman and not long for this world myself. If fate is kind, perhaps I will see you again and tell you all this in person. But if not, I pray this letter finds you one day. Please forgive yourself, Nadia. You did nothing wrong. You gave me and Zorka hope when we needed it most. Yours, Olena. By the time she finished, Nadia's cheeks were wet with tears. Oh, Olena, she breathed, pressing the letter to her heart. It felt as if the two people she had lost so long ago were here with her in this moment, their love reaching across time to ease her burden. Taras nudged her shoulder, sensing her grief. Nadia managed a trembling smile and stroked the dog's head. Did you hear that, boy? Zorka waited for me. He waited. Her voice broke on the last word. For so many years, she had imagined her poor dog suffering alone or meeting a cruel end. Now at last, she knew the truth. Zorka had been cared for, cherished to the very end by the one person who could be there in her absence. Olena had fulfilled Nadia's vow when she herself could not. Kneeling between the two crosses, Nadia bowed her head. Thank you, she whispered, unsure if she was speaking to Olena, to God, or to both. A gentle breeze stirred the leaves of the oak overhead, and for a brief moment, she felt a warmth on her face like a benediction. In her mind, she pictured Olena's kind smile and Zorka's wagging tail, finally at peace together beneath the tree. After a long silent embrace of the past, Nadia knew it was time to say goodbye. She carefully refolded Olena's letter and placed it back in its tin for safekeeping. With deliberate hands, she untied the blue kerchief from around her neck, the symbol of her decades-old promise, and draped it over Zorka's wooden cross. The bright cloth fluttered lightly in the breeze against the gray wood. It was as if she were returning it to its first owner, a final gift for her beloved friend. Rest now, my sweet boy, Nadia whispered, touching the kerchief. Rest and thank you. She rose unsteadily to her feet, one hand on the oak's trunk for support. Taras pressed close to her side, his warm brown eyes gazing up as if to say, "You're not alone." "I'm all right," she assured the dog softly, giving him a gentle rub behind the ears. In truth, her heart ached and swelled at once, aching for the years of loss, swelling with gratitude and relief. She felt lighter, as though the weight she'd carried since 1986 had finally been lifted. Olena's letter had given her permission to forgive herself at last. Nadia took one last look at the crosses beneath the oak. "Goodbye, Olena," she said softly. "You were never forgotten, and I will never forget what you did for me, for him." Her eyes shifted to Zorka's resting place. "Goodbye, my friend, good boy." A tear rolled down her cheek, but it was accompanied by a tender smile. Zorka's memory would forever live in her heart, untarnished by guilt now. As the sun dipped low, casting long rays of honey gold light through the trees, Nadia turned and walked back toward the forest path. Taras stayed right at her heel, limping slightly but determined. The two of them retraced their way through the quiet woods. This time, the silence felt comforting, not cold. Each step Nadia took was lighter than the last. She had come to this land with morphine and faith, and now she was leaving with peace and a loyal companion by her side. At the checkpoint gates, the guards looked up in surprise as the gray-haired nurse emerged from the zone with a dusty dog at her heel. One officer stepped forward, recognizing the bandaged shepherd mix. Taras wagged his tail faintly at the familiar face. The guard gave a small smile and crouched to pat the dog's side. "Looks like you found yourself a partner," he said kindly. Nadia offered a grateful, tearful smile and nodded. The guard lifted the barrier to let them through without hesitation. She knew her journey was ending in one sense and just beginning in another. There were more animals here that needed help, more kindness to spread in a place haunted by the past. Nadia silently vowed she would return again, this time not out of guilt but out of love. That evening, under a sky painted in oranges and pinks, Nadia guided Taras into her aging car for the ride home. The dog settled into the back seat, and for a moment, his curious eyes studied the woman who had saved him. Nadia reached back to scratch his ears. "Let's go home," she murmured gently. In the rear-view mirror, the dark outline of Chernobyl's forests and the distant silhouette of the reactor's steel ruins slowly receded until it was out of sight. She had kept her untold vow after all. Through sacrifice, compassion, and unwavering resilience, a promise made in the ashes of disaster had blossomed into hope. As Nadia and her newfound companion left the exclusion zone behind, one thing was certain. Even in a place long forsaken, love had endured, shining brightly against the gathering dusk. What did you think of Nadia's journey and Olina's secret? Did this story touch your heart? We'd love to read your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for joining us on this heartfelt journey.